Hello, I'm Sam. Welcome to the farm. Now I'm really excited to be speaking to you today because the sheep that we keep on this farm are about to have their lambs. We call it the lambing season. There are three main types of farm in this country. There are arable farms, which grow and harvest crops, things like wheat and sugar beet. There are pastoral farms, which keep animals. So they might keep dairy cows for their milk. And then there are mixed farms, which do a mixture of the other two things. They grow crops and keep animals. And this is a mixed farm. We grow crops like wheat and sugar beet, but we also keep sheep. The farm buildings behind me are normally full of things like the combine harvester and the tractors. And at certain times of year, they're full of wheat, which is one of the crops we grow here. But at this time of year, we're going to clear out some of the sheds so that we can bring the sheep from the fields so that they can have their lambs indoors. So that's what we're going to do this week. I'll record those jobs happening, the setting up the shed and bringing in the sheep, so you have an idea of what's done. So it's a very frosty and cold morning this morning. You might be able to see the grass behind me is frozen, and I'm just walking across the field because Farmer Andrew and Farmer Jonathan just driven down with a van and are beginning to round up the sheep. We're bringing the sheep to the shed. Much harder when it's cold for the sheep to graze. The grass doesn't grow very much. And now we're just a couple of weeks left until they start to have their lambs. We want to make sure that they're getting exactly the right amount of food, that they're warm and ready, and we can look after them really well. So that green bucket over there is why they were being so eager to come into the pen. They wanted a bit of extra food. Oh, and just using this gate to sort the sheep out. Jonathan climbs in and helps. There we go. Climbing up the ramp, most of them went in. And then they just go behind that little gate up there. Plenty of room, it's like a double-decker bus. You can see them up there. Quite happy. can move the sheep quite easily because they're very well trained to come for some food. So I'm going to pick up this green bucket and we're going to see what happens if I give it a shake. So if I just pop it over the fence here, give the bucket, here it is, a shake, watch what happens. So there you go, that's today's job, main job, almost finished. Most of the sheep are now in the shed. Some are in the field, little paddock just next door. Pip, the sheepdog, who I'm not sure has done any work today, is having a play. There you go. Those are the jobs that needed doing this week, and now the sheep are happily back in the sheds. We might also meet some of my friends who work on other farms. People like Beth and Mags, who work on a dairy farm. And Bobby, who I think knows everything there is to know about sheep's wool. Now I'm going to leave you with just a few pictures from this farm and some of their farms. And hopefully it won't be long until we see some of those lambs arriving and being born. See you next time. Hello and welcome back to the farm. I've been amazed by how many brilliant questions you guys have asked after watching last week's video, where we brought the sheep back from the field to the farm so they could have their lambs indoors. Somebody in Miss McLean's class asked, how many lambs can each sheep have? Sebastian in Miss Taylor's class asked, how long is a sheep pregnant for? Now those are great questions. We've got to go back in time a little bit to find the answer. Just before Christmas, when the sheep were still out in the field, we used a special machine called a scanner. It's an ultrasound scanner, just like the machines that get used on people. It lets us look inside the mother, in this case, the ewe, the female sheep, see the growing lambs and count them. I'm very excited today because today is the day we do one of my favourite jobs. Farmer Andrew and Farmer Jonathan will be arriving in a minute and we're going to scan the sheep. Now, you might not be able to see the sheep, in fact there are no sheep behind me at all. There's Farmer Jonathan arriving in the background, driving the trailer. There's no sheep in here, but if I spin around here now, you're going to see where all the sheep are. They're all here. And we're going to be scanning them today to find out how many lambs we might have in the spring. Sheep aren't very good at queuing up
and we can only scan them one at a time, so this narrow race helps them line up one after the other. John uses the scanner to count the lambs. There's normally 1, 2 or 3 lambs. You have to be a bit of an expert to spot them on the machine.
Yeah, and that's its body there, that's its head, the white circle. So,
could you see the lamb? I can't. Maybe we'll just have to take his word for it. This is the probe he presses against the sheep that lets him make the picture on the screen. John counts the lambs growing inside. This one's going to have 3 lambs. The dot of blue paint reminds us of this.
So let's follow one sheep through the race and see how many lambs it's going to have. We'll follow this one. It's in the race at the moment. It's waiting its turn. It's having a look. It's having a sniff. Now it's going to go in. So let's see if it's going to have any lambs.
you know, triplets.
Triplets. Farmer Jonathan put on a blue dot on her back, just so that we remember she's going to have 3 lambs.
The sheep with a green dot isn't having any lambs. The ones with no dot are having 2.
He's got the results of the scanning. Let's see what we've got. And you can see the numbers at the top here. We've got 11 are going to have 1 lamb, 32 are going to have 2 lambs, and 10 are going to have 3 lambs. So you might, and this one here, isn't having any lambs. So you might be able to work out from that how many lambs there are going to be altogether. Now it's about 147 days since the rams, the male sheep, and the ewes, the female sheep, were together. And so the female sheep, the ewes, have been pregnant for about 147 days. And that means we're expecting lambs any moment. In fact, just yesterday we had some really special news. I've arrived on farm this morning and it's absolutely freezing. It's probably about -5, so everything's frozen. It's very cold. I've got my gloves on. I've put my old, warm, scruffy clothes on to keep everything clean. We're helping out with the sheep today, so it could get a bit messy. When I arrived this morning, I had some very exciting news because one of the sheep has had the first lambs of the year, the first lambs of the season. She had 3 babies, so she had triplets. Triplets means 3. And I'm going to take you now and introduce you to them. Let's go and have a look. So we'll go into the shed nice and quietly, because we don't want to disturb these sheep. These sheep haven't had their lambs. Farmer Jonathan is just checking things alright. Down here we have got the sheep who had the lambs last night. And there they are. How many can you spot? 1, 2, and just over here, 3. Can you see this little lamb? It's only a day old, but stood up, walking, and having a drink, and a little skip and a play.
won't be long until they're running around out in the fields.
Mia and Layla in Miss Pickles' class asked, what do sheep eat? Now you saw the lamb there having a drink, and like all mammals, sheep make milk for their young, and that's all the lambs will need for the first few weeks of their life. Out in the field, the adult sheep eat grass. They're herbivores, they only eat plants. I'm an omnivore, I eat plants and meat, and Pip, the farm dog, is a carnivore, she only eats meat. Now when they're in the shed, they can't eat grass, so Farmer Andrew and Farmer Jonathan feed them this stuff here. This is haylage. Haylage is grass that's been collected and wrapped up in plastic. It can be kept on the farm all year and then fed to the sheep when they need it. They also get sheep nuts, which are a great food full of energy, which the sheep really need at this time of year. Every evening, Farmer Jonathan and Farmer Andrew let them out onto the farmyard to eat those. And I was here yesterday when that happened.
They also have sheep lick and salt lick, which is full of the extra goodness they might need to stay fit and well.
We've had some lambs now, but I've not managed to film any being born yet. So I'm going to stay here tonight, and I'll stay all night if I need to, so that I can film one being born. And I'll be able to share that with you, fingers crossed, next time. Until then, bye. Hello, and welcome back to the farm. It's been a really busy week here this week. Lots of lambs have been born. It's been really exciting, and I can't wait to share it with you. But I've had a chance to learn something as well. Thanks to the children in Miss Davis' class, I've learnt that the sign language for sheep is that. Sheep. I think it looks a little bit like the horns some of the sheep have got. And I know lots of you, like Jacob and Hendrix, were really interested to know why some of our sheep have got horns and some don't. So I thought I'd go and introduce you to some of these animals to explain. So behind me are the boys. These are the dads to all the lambs that will be born this year on the farm. We call a boy sheep a ram or a tup. Now you can see these two look very different, and that's because they're different types of sheep. We get all sorts of different types of sheep, just like you get different types of dog, different breeds of dog. You might have a small dog or a big dog. And it's just the same with sheep. This one behind me, the brown and white one, oh, it's just a spin, standing up there, is a Jacob. And you can see he has horns on his head. The girls and the boys of that type of sheep both have horns. But the white sheep doesn't. Now, the lambs all look a little bit different depending on who their dad is and who their mum is, because they're a mixture of different breeds.
Which breed a farmer keeps will depend on many things. What they're keeping the sheep for. Is it wool or meat? Some sheep also do much better in cold conditions, so that might play a part.
So those are the boys, but it's the female sheep, the girls, who've been doing all the hard work this week, and it's been very busy. A lot of lambs have been born. Now, I spent a whole day here earlier in the week trying to film a lamb being born so I could share it with you. I waited all day, and in the end I gave up and went home. But just as I got there, Farmer Andrew gave me a call, and this is what happened. I've just got back from the farm. I'm still in the car. I've pulled up outside my house, and I've been at the farm all day today waiting to film a sheep having a lamb. Seen lots of sheep, seen lots of lambs that were born last night, but I haven't seen one today being born. And just as I got home, Farmer Andrews rung me and said, "One's having a lamb right now." So I'm going to drive back. It's about 20 minutes away. And hopefully when I get there, I'll be able to film for you one of the sheep giving birth to a lamb. I better get going. So I'm back out the car. There are 2 sheep now behind me. Let's see if I can get them in shot. That one right there in the back, who is lambing, she's not far away. She's working to give birth to that lamb.
There's a few ways we know she's about to have a lamb. She strains and points her nose at the ceiling. Once we've noticed that the sheep's about to have its lambs, we keep a really close eye on it. It can take quite a long time, but luckily the other animals keep us entertained.
The cutest lamb ever keeping me company down here. I'll show you that little lamb. It keeps coming across to say hello.
Eventually, even my little friend fell asleep. The sheep have got their thick wool to keep them warm. I'm not quite so lucky. I get quite cold as I'm waiting.
I'm absolutely freezing. There's still no lamb.
After a lot of waiting, the lambs are ready to arrive. Farmer Andrew and Farmer Matthew go to check on the sheep. Lambs should arrive feet first, a little bit like they're doing a Superman position. If they come out tail first, it can be more difficult and farmers might have to help. This lamb's in the perfect position and all Farmer Matthew has to do is gently pull its legs. And the first lamb's born. A splash of cold water helps a lamb take its first breath. Inside its mother, it's not had to breathe, it's got all its oxygen from her. Now it's out, it needs to. The lamb shakes its head to clear its nose. The mother licks the lamb to dry it and get it clean. But she learns what it smells like at the same time. This will help her recognise her baby. We call this bonding. We know this sheep's expecting 2 lambs, and a few minutes later, the second one arrives. So there's 1, 2.
Is it good? Put some cold water on it.
Big lamb, so let's take a second. Cold water on it sometimes shocks them into having a first breath. What we want to see is them shaking the head. There we go. It's got all fluid in its nose, it just needs to get that out. So it can use its lungs and take some breaths. There we go. Twins. No, they are very big lambs. These are lovely lambs. These are very big. You can see already that. I don't know, that one there just standing up. There it goes. We can have your first steps. This little lamb will be on its feet before it's 20 minutes old. And I'm gonna go home and leave them to it. So those lambs will have spent the first day in a smaller pen with their mother. It's really important in the first few days that the lambs drink plenty of milk, and the farmers want to keep an eye on that, so they're kept really nice and close to each other. That milk to start with has got a special name. It's called colostrum, and it's full of antibodies, which are important for the lamb's immune system. And I'll show you some of that next time. Now, once they're released into the larger pen, their mother can find them because she recognises their smell and sound. But it's important that farmers know which lamb belongs to which sheep in case they get separated. So Farmer Andrew paints numbers on their side. Our lambs had the number 23 painted on them. It should match the number on their mother's side. I'm going to have a walk around the pen now to see if we can spot them, see how much they've changed. There they are.
There you go. Didn't those lambs look really strong and healthy? That's brilliant to see. So until next time, from me and all these lambs, bye bye. Hello, and from me and this little lamb, welcome back to the farm. It's been another really busy week on the farm. All the sheep have now had their lambs, which means there's over 100 lambs in the shed. Now at this age, the lambs are full of energy. They're really great to watch. They run around, jump, and as soon as I sit down in here, I get surrounded by a little gang of lambs who want to see what I'm doing.
Like most young animals, lambs are full of curiosity.
Sheep are herbivores. When they're out in the field, they eat grass. And when they're in the shed, the farmer brings them haylage, which is just grass that's been stored. But sheep are also mammals. And there are lots of different types of mammal. We're mammals. Pip, the farm dog, is a mammal. Cats, mice, rabbits, lions, tigers, and even things like whales that swim in the sea. They're all mammals. Now the one thing all those creatures have got in common is that they feed their young milk. That milk's full of energy, and it means that mammals can have young that grow really quickly. It gives them a way of looking after their young, and it's a real advantage. And sheep do just what other mammals do. They feed their young milk. With lambs, they'll feed on milk until they're a few months old.
Most mammals only drink milk when they're young. Humans are a bit different. Many of us carry on drinking milk when we're adults. Most of that milk comes from cows. You can milk sheep as well, but that's not something we do here. A sheep can feed 2 lambs at a time, because they have 2 teats. Can you see how the lamb wags its tail as it drinks? You might recognise these 2. These are 23, the ones we watched being born last week. Isn't it amazing how much they've changed?
Normally then, the lambs get plenty of milk from their mothers, from the sheep. But sometimes they need a bit of extra help or a bit of extra food, so they can be bought and put into this little pen behind me. And I'll flip the camera around and show you what's in here. So there were just 2 sleepy lambs in here today. Their mum wasn't making quite enough milk, so they've been brought into here. This is the milk machine. As you can see, it's just basically just a bucket. The milk is made and put into there. And the milk can be sucked through this teat here, or both of them, out, and when the lamb sucks, milk squirts out. They like that a lot. They also have here some extra feed. Some of these, once they're a few weeks old, they'll start having a little bit of that. And they also have up here a heat lamp, and that can be turned on in the evening just to keep the lambs warm if it's really cold. At the start of this week, the last of the new lambs was born, and I was here to film it.
Once these 2 lambs are born, Farmer Jonathan decides to help them have their first feed. He can collect the milk from the sheep, just like I did with the milk machine. This first milk is called colostrum. It's full of important antibodies which will really help the lamb's immune system. It doesn't look like much, but it's all these tiny lambs will need for now.
I'm going to syringe it. It goes up into the syringe. Well, it's quite thick. It looks more like cream. Just put the tube just into the corner of its mouth. Just gently squeezes the plunger, which just means it gets that milk. You see, Mum is still just getting used to those lambs. She's giving them a lick. And then for the other lamb, suck up some more of that special milk. Now, of course, the lambs will eventually be able to feed themselves, and if we left them, they would take this milk themselves, but it's very cold today. It took a while for them to be born, so just to make sure they get a feed, get something warm in their stomachs, just giving them a hand. Okay, and that was their first meal. So 2 new lambs on the farm with nice full bellies. Now, lots of you, like Evie in Miss Taylor's class, have asked questions like, why do the lambs have tags in their ears? Now, I stayed and watched as Farmer Jonathan did some of the jobs that he's doing in the first few hours after a lamb is born, and hopefully I can get you some answers. One of the slightly older lambs. Hello.
The first job Farmer Jonathan does is put a rubber ring onto the lamb's tail. This will make the end fall off. That might sound a bit mean, but once the ring's on, the lamb doesn't seem to notice. A short tail keeps the lamb's bottom clean. Can you see how these 2 older lambs have already got short tails?
So one of the jobs Farmer Jonathan's going to do here is put some ear tags into this little lamb. It's ready. Ear tags just let means we can identify the sheep when there's yeah. So every sheep in the country has to have this done. It's just like having your ears pierced. Maybe your teacher has their ears pierced. And then a little number spray painted on, just to help us on the farm know which sheep that was. And the same number on the side of Mum, so that should they get separated or mixed up, once they're out of these little pens, it'll be easy to reunite them. Doesn't happen very often.
Every lamb's ear tag has a completely different number on it. It's a little bit like the number plate on a car.
Idris and Mustafa both asked a great question. They asked if the lambs have got names. Well, on this farm they don't. They don't get kept as pets, they're farm animals, and eventually they'll be sold. Now, to tell them apart while they're on the farm, they've all got a number and they've all got that ear tag you saw being put in. Now, the sheep can tell each other apart without ear tags. Can you hear the noise they make? That noise lets the sheep recognise the lambs and the lambs recognise their mothers. It helps them find each other, even though there's 100 in the shed.
Can you hear how they all sound very different?
I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I've enjoyed making it. So from me and all these lambs and sheep, until next time, bye bye. Welcome back to the farm. I'm just enjoying a walk from the shed for what might be the last time this year. Later on today, all the lambs and sheep are going to go back out to the field. The lambs have been in here since they were born, and it was the perfect place for that to happen because it's warm and dry. But now the weather's a bit better, the grass has started to grow. And as you might be able to see behind me, some of the lambs have started to eat food. Can you see they're eating out of the feeder? They're still drinking milk, but they're ready to try something else. And they'll love the grass. The adult sheep are ready to go outside as well. Spending too much time inside on the straw can be bad for their feet. In fact, Adam from Mr. Benji's class asked, what kind of feet do sheep have? Do they have hooves? Well, earlier on, I grabbed hold of a lamb to show you what a sheep's foot looks like. So, here's Kevin. Kevin's quite small, he's about 3 days old now. I'm not sure why he's called Kevin. We don't normally name the lambs, but this one, Kevin. Kevin, like all the sheep here, has got, let me come a bit closer, 2 toes on each foot. They're hard, just like your fingernails, they grow and they get worn down when he walks. So he's got 2 toes on each foot. How many toes is that altogether? He's got 4 feet, remember? 8 toes.
We call a foot like this a cloven hoof. Cloven means split. We can tell how closely related animals are by how many toes they have. Some animals have an even number: sheep, goats, cows, and they're more closely related to each other than ones with an odd number, like horses.
If Farmer Andrew sees a sheep that looks like it might have a sore foot, he needs to take a look. Here's what happened earlier today.
Farmer Andrew spotted this sheep limping. He's going to check her feet. He holds her on her back. This stops her running away. He checks between the toes and takes out any muck. The biggest problem is bacteria, so he uses an antibacterial spray. He checks all 4 feet.
We often find footprints like these on the farm. They belong to a deer. Here's a deer that I filmed a few weeks ago on the farm. It has 2 toes on each foot, just like the sheep. These are dairy cows. They're going to be milked. Have a close look at their feet.
My friend Beth has sent me a video all about the calves she has on her farm.
In here is where all of our calves live. All of these calves have been born in the last 3 weeks. In fact, some of these are just a few days old, but as you can see, they're already starting to scamp about and display their personalities.
Just like the lambs, baby calves drink milk. Beth feeds them using bottles or a milk machine. All young mammals rely on milk, but on a dairy farm, the milk is sold for humans to use. That means the farmer has to feed the calves themselves.
It is breakfast time and these guys are certainly excited to have a nice milky breakfast this morning. So let's give them their milk.
Maggie feeds the calves 4 litres of milk each every day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. For the first few feeds, the calves have a bottle each, and when they've got the hang of that, they move on to the feeders. After all of the calves are fed, Maggie washes out the feeders and bottles. But for now, let me introduce you to one of my favourites.
I'd like you all to meet Mighty Mouse. Now Mouse was born a few days ago and she's absolutely tiny, as you'll see when she gets up. So she borrowed one of the dog's coats from the house, but it's a really happy morning because she's already outgrown her coat and she gets to have a new coat for the first time. Let's take this off you, Mouse.
Every one of our calves wears a little coat for the first few weeks of their lives, and that's to make sure that they are nice and warm when the weather is cold. It's a little bit like us wrapping a warm coat around ourselves to go outside.
There, that's better. It's a little bit big, but now she'll be warm and cosy in this until she's ready for a bigger calf coat like her friends in here. Come on, Mousy. Right, it's time for Mouse to have her breakfast. As you can see, Mouse's bottle is actually nearly as big as Mouse.
It's no wonder Mouse is growing with all that milk. After the calves have had their milk, they quite often like to run around with their friends. Just like these ones. I hope you enjoyed seeing our calves today.
Before we load the lambs onto the trailer, I'm going to have a walk around and see if I can spot lambs number 23. Do you remember those are the ones we saw being born? Let's go and take a look.
Well, there's one of them. What a show off. And what a change.
The sheep and lambs are loaded onto the trailer. Some of them have different ideas. Pip thinks she's being helpful. I'm not sure she is. Eventually, the last of the lambs are loaded on. The shed looks really empty.
there you go. The sheep and lambs are now outside in the sunshine and eating grass. It's the first time the lambs, remember, have eaten grass, and they'll soon get used to it and they'll start to really enjoy it. They'll carry on drinking milk as well, and they'll grow really quickly now. In a few months' time, they will be sold. Some will go to other farms to have lambs of their own in the future, or to be kept for wool production. Most will be sold and will end up in the food chain, so will go to produce meat for people to eat. Now that can be quite a sad day, but it's the reason that animals are kept on farms like this one. The important thing is the lambs, while they're with us here on the farm, have as good a life as we can possibly give them. Now it's been really lovely to share the lambing season with you. I hope you've learnt lots. It's been fantastic. It doesn't feel like 2 minutes ago since we were collecting the sheep on that cold winter's day to take back to the farm. And now it's a beautiful spring day and the sheep are back outside. So from me, until next time, bye bye.